There's a legit lethal weapon in Tuscaloosa that nobody's talking about leading into the 2025 season. Stick around. Let's talk about him. This is Way Offsides. 3, 2, let's go. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever the case may be. Welcome to Way Offsides, your favorite Alabama sports show on YouTube, where we do everything everybody else does. We just do it a little different because, that's who we are. Welcome to the old school studio. And by studio, I mean background. Green screen, baby, for the win. You can see I got some ridiculousness going on over here. That's okay. My lighting's bad today, but that's all right. You're not here. You're not worried about that. What you're worried about is what Cotton said in the promo opener, right? There's a lethal weapon in Tuscaloosa in 2025 that nobody is talking about. Well, people are starting to talk about him a little bit, and it's easy for him to kind of get covered up. Alabama in the transfer portal brought in a huge wide receiver, a very, very big wide receiver in Isaiah Horton. Now, Horton, coming out of high school, was a very coveted recruit. Obviously, he played with the Miami Hurricanes last season and then jumped in the transfer portal. Now, I think that this kid is going to be ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous when he comes and when he gets to Tuscaloosa under Ryan Grubb, under Kalen DeBoer. I think that he was a 4-star recruit coming out of high school. He was like the number 54 wide receiver, but he showed in college as he's grown that he's going to be legit. He's going to add another dynamic to that offense through the air. Obviously, the other guy that everybody talks about is Ryan Williams. We don't need to say much about him because we know what the expectation is for Ryan Williams. But you bring back Jalen Hill off of an injury, who is going to be absolutely nutty. Rico Scott, Bubba Hampton, the list just keeps going. Latsier Brooks. It's going to be absolutely insane. But there's a guy that a lot of people aren't thinking about who really kind of showed up for the Tide in times where it mattered last season, and that is Jeremy Bernard. Now, the 6'1", 210-pound junior out of Las Vegas, Nevada, followed Kalen DeBoer over from Washington, and he played a pretty medium role in the offense last year. His production was up from what he had at Washington. He had 40 receptions, 794 yards, 2 touchdowns. His longest catch, I think, was like 48 yards, 47 yards, something like that. And he averaged about 16 yards a catch last year. But what I want you to know about this guy is he's not just lethal out there as a wide receiver. He does a lot of work in the backfield. He had 4 carries last year for 37 yards and a touchdown. He had a long of 13 yards. A lot of folks think about Jeremy Bernard in a sense that, he's secondary to Ryan Williams. And yes, Ryan Williams is going to be the premier guy, but Jeremy Bernard was very sure-handed in the second half of the season last year, while Ryan Williams had kind of a lull. Specifically the Auburn game that he popped off in the Auburn game. I think he had, he had over 100 yards in that game, 7 receptions. You look at what he did and when he was underutilized, and in those games where he was underutilized, Bama struggled. The loss to Michigan, he only had 4 targets or 4 receptions. The loss to Oklahoma, he only had 4 receptions. Let's see the rest of it. I want to make sure I have it right here in front of me. The loss to Vandy, he only had 3. Right? We start to look at his production in other games, other close games. He did not do much in the LSU game, but that game was won on the ground. We look at Georgia. He had 5 targets for 25 yards, but Ryan Williams popped off that game. But towards the second half of the season, Mercer, 81 yards, Oklahoma, 60 yards. Now, that Auburn game, he really came in clutch for the Tide. Like I said, with 7 receptions, 111 yards, and 16 yard average per catch. Now, I think Bernard is who is it? I think it was AJ McCarron compared him to Kevin Norwood. And I'm always cautious about making those old school player comparisons because we're dealing with a new age athlete, but he does kind of present that way. He's very sure-handed. He's a gritty wide receiver. He knows his system. And what's going to be even more interesting is watching him play under Ryan Grubb as opposed to Nick Sheridan, who he already knows Grubb. He already knows what Grubb wants to do. He already knows what Kalen DeBoer and Ryan Grubb are going to do together. And I think fans are really, I don't want to say they're ignoring him because they're not like that, but with all the attention on Ryan Williams, I think it's easy to forget that Alabama has a sure first round talent there in Jeremy Bernard. And that's a big statement. All right. That's a hot take. I just said Jeremy Bernard's going to go in the first round. Well, I'm not the only one who said it. There's a lot of folks who have already done their pre-draft boards. And I think the highest I've seen him is at 14. So I'm not the only person that sees it. He's got the build for the NFL. Again, he's sure-handed. The guy, there was a couple of throws that Milroe made to him last season. I think one specifically during the Wisconsin game, the little out in the end zone. And man, just his ability to separate was amazing. And I think he was open a lot more than we probably realized last season. It was just, Jalen Milroe would kind of laser focus on Ryan Williams sometimes. And I think Jeremy Bernard was standing there open a lot because he can get separation. His route running, he might be the most crisp route runner on the team. And I know a lot of you guys are going to be like, God, we're talking about a team that's got Ryan Williams on it. We are. But that's what I'm trying to explain to you is Alabama is extremely blessed at that wide receiving room. And Jeremy Bernard is a very, very, very big reason for that. A huge reason for that. And I mean, I'm what I do on the civilian side of things, I'll say, is very statistically based, right? So I look at numbers, and when we look at his averages over his career, the trend is up. He started off in 2027 with only 7 catches. 2023, he had 34. 2024, he had 50. I would imagine he's going to get a lot more than 50 targets in 2025, meaning he could be 1,000-yard receiver. So we're talking about potentially him and Ryan Williams being 1,000-yard receivers for Alabama football. Good luck stopping that, man. Like, good luck. That's crazy to think about. Crazy to think about. And again, the biggest point I have to sell is the fact that he, more than anybody else, he and Austin Mack, more than anybody else on that roster, probably understand what Kalen DeBoer and Ryan Grubb expect and what they're going to do offensively more than anybody else on the team. So what you think, man? I know a lot of people are excited to get Jalen Hill back. I think that's huge for Alabama. I know that, Cole Adams, Rico Scott, Bubba Hampton, there's Jalen Mbakwe joins the wide receiving core. Who knows what they're going to do there? But Jeremy Bernard is going to be the soft-spoken, lethal leader in that locker room at that position group. And I think he is going to set the tone very, very early for Alabama football. Hey, recruiting's going on. We're not talking about that in this video, but we got another video coming later today. If you don't want to miss a thing, make sure you're subscribed. You hit the notification bell. Do all the things, all of them, so you don't miss anything. Alabama is set to have a huge couple of weeks here starting in about a week. We're going to cover every bit of it for you from start to finish. You're not going to want to miss it. You hit the notification bell, you won't. Okay. That's simple. Thanks for sticking around with us. Please be sure to leave a comment. Tell me what you think. Do you think Jeremy Bernard finishes with more rushing yards than Ryan Williams or not? Tell me what you think. As always, you guys are the best. Thanks for sticking around. We love you. Say your prayers, read your Bibles, wash your hands, horns down, beat Auburn and LSU and Tennessee to roll Tide.